The sun dipped low over the Nile, its golden rays shimmering like liquid fire over the water. In the bustling heart of Thebes, archaeologist Dr. Leila Bakir stood transfixed before an ancient relief carved into a temple wall. Her flashlight revealed the intricate details of the goddess Seshat, the celestial scribe of ancient Egypt. Leila traced the etchings with her finger, her heart racing. It wasn't just the usual image of Seshat with her characteristic leopard skin robe and symbolic headdress. No, this headdress seemed different. The seven-pointed star at its center was surrounded by a pattern of tiny dots and arcs, arranged with uncanny precision. Leila called her assistant Tariq, breaking her trance. "We've got to pack up. The permit expires tomorrow." Leila ignored him, her mind spinning. "This isn't decoration, Tariq," she murmured. "This is a map." Tariq frowned, stepping closer. "A map to what?" "To the stars." Back in Cairo, Leila pored over every resource she could find. Ancient scrolls, astronomical charts, even hieroglyphic dictionaries were strewn across her office. The dots on Seshat's headdress weren't random. They matched the positions of specific stars visible in the night sky over Egypt 4,000 years ago. But one thing didn't make sense. Some of the stars didn't belong. "This cluster," Leila said, pointing to her notes, "it doesn't match any recorded constellations. Not ancient, not modern." Tariq yawned from across the room. "So maybe it's just artistic license. People weren't exactly star cartographers back then." Leila shot him a look. "Seshat is the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. This isn't a mistake. It's deliberate." Her eyes lit up as she spotted something in her notes. "These stars, they're only visible if you're viewing them from a completely different angle. Like from space." Tariq sat up straighter. "Are you saying?" "I'm saying the ancient Egyptians might have known something about the stars that we don't." Their breakthrough came late one night when Leila noticed a peculiar symbol on another artifact associated with Seshat, a rectangular glyph resembling a doorway, etched with hieroglyphs for journey and great beyond. Tariq, armed with a new AI translation app, fed the glyphs into the system. The result made his jaw drop. "Gateway to the sky." Leila stared at the screen. "A stargate." The pair's research led them to a remote site deep in the desert, a place known in folklore as the land of Seshat's shadow. Guided by the star map, they found themselves standing before a massive stone structure half buried in sand. It resembled an obelisk, but its surface was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Smooth, dark, and cold to the touch, it seemed almost alien. "This isn't sandstone or granite," Leila said, her voice trembling. This feels like metal." Tariq brushed off more sand, revealing the same seven-pointed star etched into its surface. Beneath it were hieroglyphs. "Those who seek wisdom, step forth." Without hesitation, Leila pressed her hand to the star. A low hum filled the air, and the obelisk began to glow with a soft, otherworldly light. "What did you do?" Tariq asked, his voice an octave higher than usual. Before Leila could respond, the ground beneath them trembled. The desert wind grew still, and the stars above seemed to pulse in time with the glowing obelisk. A circular portal began to materialize at its base, swirling with golden light. "This isn't just a map," Leila whispered, staring in awe. "It's a doorway." Tariq was already backing away. "Leila, this is insane. What if it's dangerous?" She turned to him, eyes blazing with excitement. "Tariq, think about it. If Seshat's map leads to another world, an Egyptian colony among the stars, this could rewrite everything we know about history. About humanity. And if it's a trap?" He countered. Leila smirked. "Then we'll find out together." Grabbing Tariq by the arm, she stepped through the glowing portal, her heart pounding with a mix of terror and exhilaration. The sensation was indescribable, like being pulled through a tunnel of light and sound. When they emerged, they found themselves standing in a place that defied logic. Towering obelisks stretched toward a sky filled with unfamiliar constellations. The air was crisp and tinged with a faint metallic scent. In the distance, they saw it. A sprawling city of gleaming pyramids and temples, their golden surfaces reflecting the light of a brilliant blue sun. The architecture was unmistakably Egyptian, yet infused with technology far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. This is impossible, Tariq stammered. Leila's voice was barely a whisper. Not impossible, just forgotten. Before they could take another step, a low rumble echoed through the air. From the shadows of the city, figures began to emerge. They were humanoid but taller, their skin shimmering like starlight. They wore headdresses reminiscent of ancient Egyptian crowns, and their eyes glowed with an eerie intelligence. One of them stepped forward, speaking in a resonant, melodic tone. The words were unintelligible, but the intent was clear. "Why have you come?" Leila swallowed hard, stepping forward. "We followed the map," she said, her voice shaking. "We seek knowledge." The being tilted its head, as if considering her words. Then, with a gesture, it summoned a holographic projection of Seshat's headdress. The seven-pointed star rotated slowly, revealing hidden symbols within. Tariq leaned closer to Leila. "I think we just activated something big." Leila nodded, unable to tear her eyes away from the projection. "We're not just looking at a colony, Tariq. We're looking at the key to an entire network of knowledge, spread across the stars." The being gestured for them to follow. Heart pounding, Leila stepped forward, knowing they were on the brink of uncovering something far greater than they had ever imagined. And so, the journey truly began. The towering figure led Leila and Tariq down a smooth, shimmering path that seemed to hum under their feet. Every step brought them closer to the city, and with each passing moment, their awe grew. The pyramids glowed faintly, as if alive, and streams of light zipped through the air above them, vehicles or something even more advanced. "I don't know if I'm ready for this," Tariq muttered, glancing nervously at their guide. "They could zap us into dust with a flick of their fingers." Leila shot him a smirk. "Then stop saying stuff like that. You'll give them ideas." Their guide glanced back, as if sensing their unease. It raised a hand, and suddenly, a faint golden light enveloped both of them. Leila gasped as warmth spread through her body, a feeling of calm washing over her. Tariq blinked in surprise. What was that? The figure spoke, its melodic voice translating directly into their minds. "Reassurance. You are safe among us, so long as you seek only wisdom." "Great," Tariq said under his breath. "Let's make sure we don't accidentally offend their ancestors or something." Leila nudged him. "Focus. This is a once-in-a-lifetime discovery." They were brought to an enormous plaza at the heart of the city. The ground was etched with symbols that seemed to shift and glow as they walked across them. At the center of the plaza stood a massive obelisk, much like the one they had found in the desert, but this one was pristine, polished to a mirror-like finish. Other beings gathered around them, their glowing eyes focused intently on the newcomers. Leila felt a strange mix of exhilaration and vulnerability under their gazes. One of the beings, adorned in an elaborate headdress resembling a crown of stars, stepped forward. Its presence exuded authority, and when it spoke, its voice resonated like a song carried by the wind. "You have found the gateway," it said, addressing Leila directly. "Few of your kind have ever done so. Why have you come?" Leila took a deep breath. We followed the map. The one hidden in Seshat's headdress. We didn't know what we would find, but we had to know. Did the ancient Egyptians? Did they build this? The being tilted its head slightly, as though amused. "Your ancestors were guided, taught by us. This place is the culmination of that union, a sanctuary of knowledge and exploration. We are the celestial architects, the keepers of what your people began." Leila's heart raced. Why did they stop? Why did they leave this knowledge behind? The being's expression grew somber. They did not leave it behind. It was hidden, locked away when the balance of your world shifted. Humanity's path diverged, and the time was not yet right to return. Tariq, unable to stay silent any longer, blurted out, "So why now? Why let us find it now?" The being regarded him with a steady gaze. "Because the stars are aligning once more. Humanity has reached a pivotal moment. The map was never a secret, it was a test. Only those who could understand its meaning would be ready to face the responsibility of what lies beyond. Leila felt a chill run down her spine. What lies beyond? The being gestured toward the massive obelisk, and suddenly, its smooth surface rippled like water. A projection burst forth, filling the plaza with an array of images. Stars, planets, distant galaxies, it was a map of the universe. At its center was a pulsing light, which Leila recognized as Earth. Around it, however, were dozens of other lights, forming a web that stretched across the stars. This, the being said, is the network your ancestors helped create. A network of knowledge, of connection. It was dormant for millennia, awaiting the right moment to awaken. And now you stand at its threshold. Leila's mind reeled. Are you saying there are more colonies like this? Across the galaxy? The being nodded. But the journey to them is fraught with challenges. Each colony holds a piece of the greater puzzle, a fragment of the knowledge your ancestors sought to preserve. To unlock it, you must prove yourselves worthy, not just as individuals but as a species. Tariq paled. Wait, what does prove yourselves worthy mean? Are we talking riddles, trials, death traps? The being didn't answer directly. Instead, it raised its hand, and the projection shifted to reveal an ancient script etched into stone, a script Leila immediately recognized. That's from the Temple of Karnak, she whispered. It is the first key, the being said. The wisdom of your world is intertwined with ours. To unlock the next gateway, you must return to where it all began. Leila and Tariq exchanged a glance. They had barely scratched the surface of this alien city, and already the journey was pulling them back to Earth. But wait, Leila said, turning back to the being. What happens if we fail? The being's glowing eyes seemed to dim slightly. Failure is not an option. The knowledge must be reclaimed. For without it, the stars will turn against you. Tariq groaned. Oh great. No pressure. Leila, however, felt a flicker of determination. We'll do it, she said firmly. We'll find the key. Whatever it takes. The being stepped aside, gesturing toward the portal that shimmered back into existence. Then your path is clear. But beware. Others may seek this knowledge for darker purposes. The stars have many watchers, and not all are benevolent. Leila swallowed hard but nodded. As she and Tariq stepped back through the portal, the alien city faded from view, replaced by the familiar sands of the desert. The adventure was far from over, and the stakes had just been raised. The moment they re-emerged into the Egyptian desert, the portal behind them shimmered briefly before vanishing, leaving the obelisk silent and lifeless. The air felt heavier, as though the weight of their discovery had followed them back. Tariq dropped to the sand, exhaling sharply. I don't know how you're so calm, he said, his voice unsteady. We just walked through a portal into a city built by aliens, and now they've tasked us with saving humanity, or whatever that ominous stars turning against us thing meant. Leila knelt beside him, brushing sand from her boots. I'm not calm, Tariq. My heart's about to explode. But this is history in the making. We're part of something that's been hidden for thousands of years. Yeah, hidden for a reason, he shot back. They said the stars have watchers. What if those watchers come looking for us now? Leila frowned, a sliver of doubt creeping into her thoughts. She hadn't considered the possibility that by activating the map, they might have drawn the attention of beings far less friendly than the celestial architects. She stood abruptly, scanning the desert horizon. We can't waste time. They said the first key is at the Temple of Karnak. If this script is connected to the Gateway network, it might have been hiding in plain sight all along. Tariq groaned as he hauled himself to his feet. Fine. But I'm telling you, Leila, if we get chased by alien bounty hunters or cursed mummies, I'm out. Leila smirked. Ill. 2 days later, they found themselves standing in the shadow of the massive columns of Karnak Temple. The air buzzed with the sounds of tourists and the faint murmurs of guides explaining the history of the site. But Leila's focus was laser-sharp, her eyes scanning every wall and pillar for the ancient script they had seen in the projection. Are we even looking in the right place? Tariq asked, trailing behind her with a camera slung over his shoulder. This place is massive. We could spend years searching. Leila stopped in her tracks, her gaze locking onto a weathered carving partially obscured by a layer of grime. There, she said, pointing. That's it. They hurried over, Tariq fumbling to grab a brush from his bag. He carefully dusted away the centuries of dirt, revealing a series of hieroglyphs that matched the ones they had seen in the alien city. At the center was the seven-pointed star, encircled by symbols that seemed to radiate outward like beams of light. It's the same pattern, Leila murmured. But this one has more detail. Look at these smaller glyphs. Tariq leaned closer, squinting. They look like coordinates. Leila's heart skipped a beat. Coordinates to the next gateway. Before they could decipher further, a shadow loomed over them. Turning, they found a man dressed in an unassuming beige suit, his face partially obscured by dark sunglasses. Dr. Bakir, Mr. Tariq, the man said smoothly. I'd like to have a word. Leila's stomach dropped. Who are you? The man smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Let's just say I represent a group very interested in your recent activities. The gateway, the map, the obelisk. It's all quite fascinating, isn't it? Tariq took a step back. How do you know about that? The man's smile widened. We've been watching. The stars aren't the only ones with eyes. Leila clenched her fists. If you know so much, then you know what's at stake. This knowledge belongs to humanity, not to some secretive organization. Perhaps, the man said, his tone still calm. But knowledge is a dangerous thing, Dr. Bakir. In the wrong hands, it could bring ruin instead of enlightenment. And right now your hands are unsteady. Leila's mind raced. They couldn't let this stranger, or whoever he worked for, take control of the discovery. She glanced at Tariq, who was slowly inching his hand toward his bag. She knew he kept a small distraction device there, something they'd used during digs to startle animals. The man must have noticed the movement because his expression hardened. I wouldn't if I were you. Tariq froze. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device, pressing a button. A hologram projected into the air between them, a shimmering map of Earth overlaid with pulsating red dots. These, the man said, gesturing to the dots, are the other gateways. We've been tracking them for years, but they've been dormant. Till now. You've stirred something up, and it's only a matter of time before others take notice. Others? Leila asked, her voice sharp. You mean the Watchers? The man nodded. You have no idea what's coming, Dr. Bakir. And if you don't cooperate, you'll have even less time to prepare. Leila exchanged a glance with Tariq, her mind whirring. They were in deeper than they had realized. But one thing was certain. The map wasn't just a path to knowledge, it was a beacon. And it had already been lit. Leila's breath hitched as the hologram flickered, showing a new layer of information. Faint blue trails emanating from the red dots on Earth, reaching outward into space. The trails were jagged, chaotic, like paths forged in desperation. What are those? She asked, pointing at the blue lines. Escape routes, the man said, his voice unervingly calm. The gateways weren't just for exploration or colonization. They were a contingency plan, a way out if Earth ever became uninhabitable. Leila's stomach churned. Uninhabitable? Why? What did the celestial architects know that we don't? The man tucked the device back into his pocket. That's the question, isn't it? Perhaps they foresaw something, a natural disaster, a cosmic event. Or perhaps they weren't as benevolent as you'd like to believe. Why should we trust you? Tariq asked, his voice trembling but defiant. For all we know, you're part of the problem. The man smirked, adjusting his sunglasses. Trust me. I don't expect you to. But we're not the enemy here. The Watchers, if they sense what you've activated, will come. And they won't care whether you're innocent or guilty. To them, you're an insect that's crawled into a god's lair. Leila narrowed her eyes. If you're so knowledgeable, why don't you stop them? The man's expression hardened. We've tried. 4 years we've monitored these gateways, deciphered fragments of their purpose. But your activation changed everything. You've triggered a chain reaction. The Watchers are waking up, and our time is running out. A chill ran down Leila's spine. What do you want from us? The man stepped closer, lowering his voice. We need you to find the next gateway. Decipher its codes. You've already proven you can. And when you do, we need to know exactly what it holds. Technology, warnings, weapons, whatever it is. You're not the only ones racing to claim it. Leila took a step back, her mind racing. And if we refuse? The man's smile was razor-sharp. Then you'll be left to face the Watchers alone. I promise you it won't end well. Before she could respond, Tariq abruptly lunged forward, yanking a small cylinder from his bag. He pressed a button, and a deafening crack and blinding flash erupted from the device. The man staggered backward, clutching his ears, as the tourists nearby turned in confusion. When? Tariq shouted, grabbing Leila's arm. They bolted through the temple complex, weaving through crowds and ducking behind columns. Leila's heart pounded as she heard the man shouting behind them, his voice lost in the chaos. You didn't think to warn me you were going to do that? She hissed as they rounded a corner. Tariq grinned, breathless. Surprise. I didn't think it'd work. They reached the far edge of the temple grounds, where their jeep was parked. Tariq fumbled with the keys, and Leila scanned the area nervously. Do you think he'll follow us? She asked, glancing back toward the temple. Tariq yanked the door open. If he's half as connected as he seems, we'll have more than him to worry about. They sped away, the dusty road stretching endlessly ahead. Leila stared out the window, her mind a whirlwind of questions and fear. Who were these Watchers? Why were the gateways so dangerous? And most importantly, what was waiting for them at the next site? Hours later, as they drove into the open desert, Tariq broke the silence. So, what's the plan? Leila clenched her fists. We find the next gateway before they do. Whatever's there, we can't let it fall into the wrong hands. Define wrong hands, Tariq muttered. Between alien Watchers, secret organizations, and whoever else is out there, I think we're surrounded. Leila leaned forward, pulling out the photograph she had taken of the Karnak glyphs. Her fingers traced the coordinates etched into the stone. This is our next step, she said firmly. It'll lead us to another gateway and maybe answers. But we'll need help. Tariq frowned. Help? From who? Leila's lips tightened. I know someone. An astronomer who specializes in ancient star maps. He's a bit eccentric, but if anyone can decode this fully, it's him. Eccentric how? Tariq asked warily. Leila's eyes twinkled with the hint of a smile. Let's just say he believes in aliens more than he believes in gravity. Tariq groaned. Fantastic. Another lunatic in our party. But Leila was already dialing her satellite phone, her determination hardening. The stakes were higher than she'd ever imagined, and every second brought them closer to answers, or to danger. Somewhere out there the Watchers were stirring, and she had a sinking feeling they wouldn't wait long to make their move. The desert sun was low on the horizon by the time Leila and Tariq arrived at the remote observatory. Perched on a rocky outcrop, the dome-shaped structure gleamed like a beacon against the fading light. Leila parked the jeep, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. Your eccentric astronomer friend better not send us on a wild goose chase, Tariq muttered as they climbed out. Leila smirked. You'll see. Professor Omar knows his stuff. He might be unconventional, but he's brilliant. The observatory door creaked open as they approached. A wiry man with wild gray hair and thick glasses peered out, his expression lighting up when he saw Leila. Dr. Bakir, he exclaimed, his voice carrying a melodic lilt. You've come with secrets, haven't you? I can always tell when someone has secrets. Good to see you too, Professor, Leila said with a grin. I need your help. We found something extraordinary. Omar waved them inside eagerly. The observatory's interior was a chaotic blend of high-tech equipment, dusty books, and half-finished cups of tea. A massive star map dominated the central console, its glowing dots slowly shifting to reflect the night sky. Leila handed him the photograph of the Karnak glyphs. This is a star map, but it points to something beyond Earth. We need to decipher it. Omar adjusted his glasses, his eyes widening as he studied the image. This is exquisite. The alignment of the stars, the angles. This isn't just a map. It's a key to something vast. Tell us something we don't know, Tariq said, crossing his arms. Omar shot him a knowing look. Patience, young man. The stars don't reveal their secrets to the impatient. Omar worked quickly, running the glyphs through his star mapping software while referencing ancient texts scattered around the room. As the hours passed, the tension grew palpable. Finally, Omar leaned back, his face pale but triumphant. It's a location. A star system far from here, but with one crucial feature: a stable wormhole. Leila leaned forward, her pulse quickening. A wormhole. Like a shortcut through space. Omar nodded. Exactly. And the coordinates suggested aligns with an ancient celestial event, a supernova recorded by Egyptian astronomers. It's as if this gateway activates only under specific conditions. And those conditions are now, Tariq said, rubbing his temples. Course. Omar hesitated, his excitement fading. There's something else. These glyphs, they're a warning as much as a map. The watchers you mentioned, they're tied to this. The gateway isn't just a pathway. It's a signal. If you open it, they'll know exactly where you are. Leila's throat tightened. Do we have a choice? If this is humanity's legacy, we can't let it fall into the wrong hands. Omar sighed, running a hand through his hair. You could leave it alone, but I doubt the watchers or your pursuers will stop. You've already set the wheels in motion. Tariq groaned. So it's either we do nothing and wait for disaster, or we risk everything by opening the gateway. Leila stared at the star map, her resolve hardening. We open it. If the watchers are coming, we need to understand what we're dealing with. Ignorance won't save us. The final coordinates led them deep into the Sahara, to an ancient, long-forgotten temple buried beneath the shifting sands. With Omar's guidance, they uncovered an entrance sealed by stone doors covered in intricate carvings of stars and swirling patterns. This is it, Omar whispered, his voice trembling. The gateway. Leila pressed her hand against the carvings, and the stone began to glow. The symbols lit up one by one, forming the seven-pointed star. A low hum filled the air as the doors parted, revealing a chamber bathed in golden light. At its center stood a pedestal holding a crystalline sphere, pulsing with energy. Hieroglyphs lined the walls, telling the story of a great journey, a migration of knowledge and people across the stars. Tariq approached cautiously. This thing. It's the key, isn't it? Leila nodded, her heart pounding. And the signal. She hesitated, her hand hovering over the sphere. Once we activate it, there's no turning back. Omar placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The choice is yours, Dr. Bakir. But remember, knowledge is the only weapon humanity has ever truly had. With a deep breath, Leila touched the sphere. The chamber erupted with light as the walls came alive with cascading symbols and projections of the stars. The floor trembled, and a beam of energy shot upward, piercing the heavens. Outside, the night sky lit up as if the stars themselves were answering the call. Tariq shielded his eyes, shouting over the noise. What's happening? The gateway is opening. Omar cried. The watchers will know we're here. Leila stepped back, her eyes fixed on the swirling vortex of energy forming above the temple. A distant rumble echoed across the desert, growing louder by the second. And then, from the vortex, shapes began to emerge. Massive, gleaming ships descending with an eerie grace. Their surfaces shimmered like liquid metal, their designs both beautiful and terrifying. They're here, Leila whispered, her voice trembling. The watchers. Tariq grabbed her arm. What do we do now? Leila stared at the approaching ships, fear and determination warring within her. We face them. Whatever happens next, humanity deserves to know the truth. As the first ship descended, its silhouette blocking out the stars, Leila stood tall, ready to meet the beings who had watched over the gateways for millennia. The future of humanity, and the secrets of the stars, hung in the balance.